taking over certain projects, but in this particular case, it might make a difference.
Guess we'll see.
Because there's really no reason, since Streamlabs is built on OBS, that it shouldn't, but something with the way it's programmed, obviously, causes interference. So, let's see.
Have you seen the trailer for the new Assassin's Creed?
I have not. I've not really been an Ass Creed fan.
Ass Creed.
A friend of mine who enjoys the franchise actually started calling it that, and I was like, okay, Ass Creed, got it.
Your game and title haven't updated
either. They should in a moment. If not after this, I'll check it after this race.
Yeah, Twitch is a little slow as well, so saying you're fine. That's all good. Shit.
You don't have to race this in first-person view. I prefer that, though.
Yeah.
Also, this, I believe, runs on some variant of the Unreal Engine, but it uses very low textures. The majority of everything in the game is built on polygons.
Huh.
Which to me is astounding, because, I mean, like, that gives you a much better sense of depth.
Yeah. I mean, some games look really, really nice from the Unreal Engine, and others look crap. It depends how much work you put into the game.
Oh, shit. Yep, I hit that wall, and now I've totally fucked myself. Well, it's been a good long while since I played this, so I'm not too beat up about it. Oh, that's another thing about this game. It is very, very unforgiving. If that weren't obvious. You know, a lot of games have rubber banding with erasers. This doesn't. I'm just totally getting stomped into the dirt, but, you know, that's okay, because the same applies in reverse. If you're just absolutely destroying the competition, they won't just magically catch up to you. They'll, You'll continue to outpace them by leaps and bounds. There was one race I finished in, like, campaign mode where there was a full 30-second gap between me and second place. No, that's not it. Okay, that's it. Alright.
You do.
So, you'll notice that certain hills I go over, the screen begins to darken.
Yeah.
Okay, so the game is called Redout for a reason. Do you know what a Redout is?
If it's similar to a blackout, then...
It's similar, yes. So, a blackout is when you have a pilot and they maneuver their vehicle in such a way, usually like pulling up to do a loop, where all their blood drains to their feet. And a Redout is the opposite. They dive so quickly all their blood rushes to their head.
Ah, so similar to what the Zero pilots did in World War II with the kamikaze.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So when you go over a hill, you need to press up on the right control stick to nose your vehicle down, and that helps minimize your Redout factor.
So this is similar to pod racing, basically.
It can be. I have the vehicle that actually looks like it has like pod racer design, but there are plenty of others that don't. Let me pull one of those up. I'll show you. In fact, I think that is actually the only vehicle that does have those. The
yeah, your game and title haven't updated either.
Oh, yes, good call. Let me check that real quick. It says it should be there. I guess try refreshing the window.
Yeah, I'll do that.
But the Sulha brand, all of their vehicles have that sort of like pod racer look to them. But then you have this one that looks like a fucking muscle car. You have a bunch of different brands. I think this one's supposed to be Russian. Let's try that one.
It seems like a pretty old game by now.
Yes and no. I don't remember when it came out, but like again, the attention to detail on it is fantastic, and they have built-in compatibility for every VR headset, even open source VR headsets.
Oh wow. I mean, I haven't heard too much about Polygon Engine, but Unreal Engine, especially Unreal Engine 4, is incredible.
Yes, it is astounding what it can do. Like, I'm not happy with what Epic has done as far as like business goes, but their design for their game engine, like, holy shit, dude, it is just absolutely banging.
Just wait for Unreal Engine 5 if they make that enough.
It'll probably be a while before they do that.
Probably won't be anytime soon. More than likely next gen will have something like that. I think The Last Guardian was built on the Unreal Engine.
I'm sorry, what?
The Last Guardian, I think that's built on Unreal.
I wouldn't be surprised. That's the one that's a sequel to Shadow of the Colossus, right?
Kind of. It has Shadow of the Colossus elements to it, yeah. And it took, what, 7 or 9 years to make that game? Due to the incredible amount of AI programming.
Man, it's been too long since I played this. I bet these I left the AI on veteran level.
Possible.
Probably. I don't know if you caught when I went over that hill and like the screen went red.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was because I wasn't nosing down, so I got a red out there.
Into a zoom.
I'm gonna just try and drift left and right. I'll avoid using the vertical control stick to see if like it actually shows, the visual distortion with some of the hills and whatnot.
Yeah, sometimes it's red.
Yeah, now it went red and black and.
It's interesting.
So yeah, you don't just need to control your horizontal movement. Vertical matters too, and that's something that I like.
It sounds like it can get very repetitive.
Not really. I bought the full package when it was on sale. I'm gonna go. Well, actually, I'm gonna back out. I'm gonna check difficulty.
Yeah, it could be better.
Because it's been ages, and even when I was like peak on this, yeah, veteran. We'll do Redout. We'll do in the middle. Even when I was like playing this a lot, when I finally got to take on players online, dude, they just spanked me. We'll go back to the one that I'm used to. Yep, that one. And so you have different areas. I don't want to say planets because most of them are on Earth. Cairo, Alaska, Bruza, Volcano, Europa. And these are not tracks, these are sets of tracks. Inside each of these, you then have another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tracks.
Damn.
So that gives us a total of what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So 60 tracks total in the game. Each of them different. Plus you have what are called boss tracks, where they mix and match all of the 5 tracks of an area into one prolonged race. That race on its own can take like 10 minutes.
Huh.
Not to mention, like I was saying, the physics changed based on each one. Cairo, Alaska, Abruzzo, that's Italy. Volcano, all of these are on Earth. Europa is literally Europa, the moon of, Jupiter?
Yeah.
That one, the majority of it is underwater, which can adjust, like, how you play. Neptune is orbiting Neptune. It's considered deep space. When you lose connection with the track, you literally just go straight. There's no gravity. So you can actually fly the ship at that point. Vertex is all virtual reality. Mars, obvious moon. You have low gravity there. Low gravity, but not entirely null. So when you go off of a jump, you drop, but very slowly. PAR-219 is an alien planet way out there. That's one of my favorites, actually. And the gravity varies depending upon what course, because some of it goes from the planet surface to deep space. Sequoia is all like Native American themed tracks. And then Rotorua is another alien planet where there was an expedition ship that crashed. And it has relatively Earth-like gravity, but still not quite there. It provides a lot of variety, and each one of these has its own sort of themes to it as well. Like, saw a bit of Cairo. Oh yeah, that's another thing. Earth's environment was wrecked, so a bunch of people just kind of like left the surface, and now they're starting to come back. Cairo is nothing but racetracks and burned out like buildings and monuments. Like, nobody lives there. You have a few people that live there because they literally have no other place to go, so they take up habitation, but other than that, like, it's a wasteland. Alaska, on the other hand, is research centers, and everything in here is based around either jumps or tight turns. I believe it's supposed to be like a research center. Also, you have a different set of music for each setting you go into, which doesn't sound like much, but it does really help suit the atmosphere.
Yeah.
I
just had a look at how long I've been following it. It says I've been following it since October 28, 2019, so last year. Doesn't seem like that long ago.
That sounds about right, though.
Yeah.
Because, like, you popped in now and then, but you weren't, like, really hanging out for until recently. Okay, there we go.
I don't know. I can't remember if I caught one of your streams when I was actually in Japan. I might have. I remember putting up the picture on Twitter that I was at Tempura hot dog. That was...
Of what?
Remember the hot dog I had when I was in Japan? And I put a picture up on Twitter?
When you were in Japan? Yeah. Oh, fuck. No!
Yeah. Oh, Jesus. No, Diesel. Don't die.
Yeah, no, that's one of the nice things about this. Like in F-Zero, if you went off the track, like, that's it. You lose the race. The end. Start over. And you have a certain number of retries. This one, you go off the track, you lose, you have a respawn time, and that sets you back, but you don't immediately lose the race, so... Oh, and that's another thing. There isn't just, like, one audio track that plays for a certain setting. They actually have, like, 2 or 3 different ones, so you aren't, like, stuck listening to the same thing while you're on a certain circuit.
I mean, I wouldn't complain about listening to Black Betty. Or some Euro beat or something, that'd be cool.
Yeah, shut up. So one of the optional power-ups you can get is a repair drone.
Yeah.
It eats up your boost energy when you use it, but it immediately, like... You have automatic repair drones that will repair the hull of your ship, which is the health on the left, of course. As long as you don't take damage for a certain amount of time. But your active power-up, if you fire it, it eats up energy, but it allows you to repair your ship right away.
Yep.
To me, it's kind of, especially because like this particular like line of ships have low durability. Once, like when I was, pardon me, when I was like really into this and was skilled at it, I didn't need it. But it's kind of like a certain level of like training wheels to me, because like I take damage. Okay, well, you know what? I'll keep racing and just repair my ship.
Yeah. But since it's been so long, your skill has slipped.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's been... Boy. I mean, like, I would play this off and on, but, like, playing it, like, serious, you know, for a prolonged period has been... probably... a good year and a half? 2 years, somewhere around there.
There's 2 games I would love to play, but one's not out yet, and the other I definitely cannot show on Twitch. I'll get banned immediately.
Gentle Jousting?
No, I wouldn't get banned for that. No, it's called Breeders of the Nephilim Alpha. And, yeah, you can imagine what breeding is. Yeah, definitely not safe for work. Definitely not, not something Twitch would be okay with. It sounds good in theory, like game-wise, but, yeah, it's one of those really 18-plus weird games.
One of those really what?
One of those 18-plus weird games where someone weird fetishes.
I mean, Gentle Jousting is meant to be humorous, but still, like, Twitch does not allow that in their display category.
Oh, really? I thought they'd be okay with that, since it's, like, cartoon.
I mean, it's cartoony, but it's still, like, butts and penises, so... They, to them it's apparently just still too much along the lines of sexual content, so damn it all. On the note of like adult content, the last time we were having a serious, well, I can't even say serious, a prolonged conversation. If I got into TMI category, I'm sorry for that.
Nah, you're right.
I honestly should have like asked first. You brought up the whole like, you know, the movement of the daddy thing that's been going on online, and BDSM and all that. And like, of course I don't want to like get my account suspended, but I also want to be somebody who's like kind of open as far as sexuality goes on Twitch, because I think that's something that is just like a part of humanity that gets pushed aside because a lot of people like poo-poo it.
You mentioned general jousting that it's not okay with. I don't believe that, because I had a look for it just now. There's streams that were done 8 and 6 days ago.
I'm sorry, I was crashing into walls. Wind that back just a couple of sentences.
Genital jousting must be allowed then, because there's several videos of it up on Twitch.
Oh, interesting.
They must be okay with it. Now, don't care.
I mean, I was talking about the direction the conversation went in after when I was playing Darknet.
Yeah, yeah. I remember.
Okay, cool. I just, like I said,
You can't scare me. I've seen just about everything. I've been on the internet for a long time.
same. But still, some people get weirded out when it's like I talk about open relationships, or I know people that are polyamorous or this and that, and it's just like, whoa, hey buddy. So I mean, like I thought you were okay with it, but I still wanted to just say that like I should have like tried to clear that first, because me just assuming because you started talking about that like that isn't a safe assumption. So I figured it would be courteous to say like, hey, if that was a little bit TMI, that I didn't intend to go down that route.
No, it's fine. It's quite fine. I mean, I understand that some people aren't okay with it. That's just, the problem lies with them, not so much me.
Well, I mean, that might be the case, but like, still at that point, I wasn't quite sure like what your perspective on it was, and I should have cleared that first. And I realized like you're okay with that now, but I just wanted to say like, sorry, I didn't check with that beforehand. I have, well, like I was saying before, like I have a bunch of weird stories, and I'm not your stereotypical like, that is not my what is the status quo. I do not ascribe to, and I don't poo-poo anybody who does, like, that's their choice, however they want to, like, whatever.
Like, me personally, I just find the vanilla aspect boring. But if that's your thing, go for it.
Yeah. I mean, well, it's like, if it weren't obvious, like, I like cooking. and it's at this point, like, the analogy is almost a little bit overblown, but like, I like things spicy. I mean, like, it's a true factor. Like, there are certain things that some people can handle and some cannot.
Speaking of spicy, I do not recommend spicy ramen. The amount of chili and other spice in that, just no.
But
yeah, I was with my mate getting it at like our regular ramen restaurant. We used to get ramen and whatnot every fortnight or week or whatever. And then I wanted to go for the spicy ramen. And then I'm having like, shit! Then one of my mates is just going, oh, you should drink the bowl. I'm like, yeah, no, I am not doing that. No. Yeah, it didn't end well. The next day, it was agony.
Somebody I knew had one night they got absolutely wasted and ended up, for whatever reason, having a ton of spiced rum and yogurt. Between what it did to like accelerating their digestive system and the rum, boy howdy, they had a bad time the next day.
Yeah, I can imagine, because the alcohol would have curdled the yogurt.
Well, that's what you would think, and that would be good, because then at least you get like a cheese compound to slow everything down. But nah, the bacteria in the yogurt accelerated their digestive system, and that, along with the rum, boy,
oh, yeah.
They said that they were literally sitting on the toilet getting vertigo because they were trying to deal with everything that was going through their body.
Oh, God. I've had benign vertigo before, and it's not fun.
Benign vertigo?
Basically, it's vertigo, but it's not at that level. Basically, the room spins, and you just throw up everywhere.
Oh. That sounds like what happens to me when I get exposed to weed.
Well, I just woke up one morning, room spun, leaned over the side of my bed, just throw up everywhere. That was not fun. Thankfully, that hasn't happened in years. I don't want it to happen again.
Well, again, if it's like anything, when I get a contact high... Well, actually, no, that isn't... A contact high doesn't make me feel good. It makes it hard for me to think, and everything just is kind of off. But I don't get sick from that. But bear in mind, contact high is like literally somebody blowing a smoke cloud on the street and it passes by me. If I am exposed to like straight on, or if I take a drag, then what you're describing is what I feel for a couple of hours.
I mean, I remember getting high with a friend at one point, and I probably downed at least $30 worth of the Domino chicken wings back when they did them, and I literally sculled an entire litre of fruit juice just in one go. Just, it was a weird night.
So wait a minute. I heard got high, Domino's chicken wings, and then downed an entire like liter of fruit juice.
Yes, I got high. I went through. I think it was like $30 to $40 worth of Domino's chicken to myself.
Holy shit!
And the entire liter of fruit juice in one go.
Oh wow. I can. For what it's worth, getting high, I can't go down that road, obviously. But as far as getting drunk goes, I've done things like that. The other night I was talking to RX and I said, I don't like to drink hard liquor straight.
Yeah, I remember.
But cocktails, boy howdy. Cocktails are my jam. I like to mix and see what I come up with. And this glass, which of course right now is filled with whiskey and Dr. Pepper, is hard to measure. But when I fill this up most of the time, I go 1, 2, 3, 4. I put that much whiskey in it.
Yep.
And then the rest becomes Dr. Pepper. So it's
the
like...
right now is how much... usually how much Malibu I put in my drinks.
Okay.
But that's coconut rum, so that's fine.
Yeah, and I was going to say, like, if you're doing Malibu coconut, that's like 20%.
Yeah.
But I put in, like, whiskey, which is like 40%. And that's the equivalent of, like, 3 or 4 shots just with Dr. Pepper.
Now, try doing that with 70% vodka and see how you go.
Yeah. I'll do Kraken sometimes, and that one does... I
didn't like it.
Oh, you didn't like it?
No, I wasn't a fan of it.
To me, it's about the mixers. You really need something that complements that, like, deep, rich flavor.
There's sake I want to try.
But I digress. My point is, like, I just described how I mix my cocktails, and to go through, like, a half gallon of cocktails in one night.
Yeah.
Of course, that's just, stupid U.S. measurements. Give me a moment.
Hey, good. I'm just trying to find the sake that I want. Here it is. It's Toya Kokuto Umeshu.
So it would be the equivalent of, like, essentially 2 liters worth of mixed cocktails in one evening.
Oh, damn.
And, yeah. Sometimes when I get wasted, the stuff that I eat, holy cow.
I want to try this sake. It comes from Osaka in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's blended ume fruit, which is umeboshi sour plums.
Oh, okay.
with brown sugar, black rum, and black vinegar.
I'm gonna guess black vinegar is close to balsamic, and if that's the case, that sounds absolutely delicious.
It is. It tastes rich, sweet, and even smoky. You can have this on the rocks or with vanilla ice cream. Which, not gonna lie, that sounds amazing.
Do you like black licorice flavor?
No, I do not.
Okay. Jaeger?
I tried Jaeger at one point and just, no thanks.
Not your thing? Okay.
The problem with Jaeger is too, if you get drunk on it, the compound in Jaeger, at least it used to, I don't know if it still does, will actually stick to the vomit and prevent you from throwing up for 45 minutes.
Interesting.
So you could be sitting there trying to throw up, but you just can't.
God damn it.
Oops, he crashed.
Yeah, I did. Ouzo, Sambuca, or Absinthe. Have you tried any of those?
I have never been able to find absinthe in this country.
Okay.
As for the others, I don't think I've heard of them.
Okay. Ouzo is Greek, Sambuca is Italian, and Absinthe is... Absinthe has a horribly negative reputation for being extremely toxic. It was only a few years ago that... Actually, at this point, it may have been a decade, where it was made legal in the U.S. That's because many of the manufacturers for absinthe used to spike it with toxic compounds to give it an extra kick. But that was, a long time ago, and absinthe itself is just distilled from anise, which of course tastes like black licorice. A lot of people, oh, Jaeger tastes like black licorice. No, it doesn't. Ouzo, Sambuca, or absinthe does.
I mean, I've tried Jaeger. I tried a Jaeger bomb, which is Jaeger and Red Bull. And not really. I don't like things that taste like licorice.
Generally, neither do I, but that's generally. There is a thing, though. Do you like root beer?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so there's this weird thing that happens with certain flavors when you kind of send them into overdrive. So if you take, say, coffee, and you condense the smell of coffee again and again and again, it actually becomes repugnant, like skunk.
Yeah.
And likewise, if you take a skunk and you drive past a skunk that's been run over on the highway, as the smell fades away, you might notice a coffee aroma. That's because they use the same, very close compound, except one is much, much, much stronger than the other.
Okay.
So this same thing happens with licorice, except you get a much wider sliding scale to this. Of course, on the heavy end is black licorice, which most people are familiar with. Then you get root beer, and then finally at the light end you get marshmallows. If you ever get the chance, and this is going to sound so crazy right now, but just hear me out. If you ever get the chance, take some Jaeger and mix it with root beer, and it will blow your fucking mind. Because Jaeger doesn't actually have black licorice. What it has is extremely concentrated root beer flavor. If you ever try Sambuca, or Ouzo, or... I mean, it is much more black licorice than anything that Jaeger has to offer. But that's because it's concentrated. Jaeger actually lands much closer to that root beer mark. But then if you take something like Ouzo or Sambuca and you mix it with root beer, in the right quantity,
Yeah.
As the phrase goes, the dose makes the poison, right?
Yes.
If you mix ouzo or sambuca with root beer in the proper quantity, you'll actually get something that's like a deeper, richer root beer flavor.
Speaking of poison for a second, bit morbid subject, but I actually know how to get cyanide.
Okay.
It's actually a natural cyanide. It comes from plants, the seeds,
Mm-hmm.
nectarines, and I think there was another one. Peach, I think. Peach also contains.
Peaches and apples.
Yes. Peaches, apples, and plums.
Most fruits that are drupes contain cyanide in their seeds, which is not poisonous as long as you do not rupture the pit or the seed.
Yeah, I mean, if you ate the seed, yeah.
Swallow it whole, you're fine. But if you chew it up or you crack it, you're in trouble. And actually, apples have the highest concentration. If you were to take 12 apples worth of seeds and powderize them, you would have enough to easily kill a person.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you can also kill someone with rat poison, so...
Well, yeah, but that's strychnine. That's not cyanide.
No, but it does kind of the same thing. It turns your guts to liquid.
Yeah. But there's a big difference though, and that is with cyanide. If you take the right compound, it can actually neutralize it, and you don't need to worry about that. For whatever reason, owls are completely immune to cyanide, and there's a compound. There are several that can do it, but the one that is like an industrial compound specifically designed for such things was nicknamed Agent Blue.
Okay.
Because it would make you pee blue until it left your system, but it would 100% counter cyanide. Like, you could just eat the poison straight and it would not affect you. Strychnine, on the other hand, it does not obey those same rules. It's a completely different compound.
Yeah. But if strychnine gets in your system, you're pretty much screwed without immediate medical attention.
Again, the dose makes the poison.
Sure.
I have, let's say on pretty good authority from somebody who is experienced, that strychnine is a way to make poor man's LSD.
Huh.
It's not good for you
Of course not.
by any means, but it replicates the effects as long as you use it in moderation.
Well, that's just it. I mean, you can get high from looking at bloody cane toad.
Yeah. No, there's. I mean, it's there. There are a lot of things that their level of fuck, even alcohol. Like, you know, that's a poison by definition. It's just a couple of carbon chains away from fucking, what is it? Antifreeze, basically.
I mean, what is it? Operatives working in World War II used to actually have cyanide capsules they were given. If they were captured, they would just pop the false tooth and just pop the pill, dead.
Yeah, to prevent interrogation or loss of secrets. And then, of course, you have others that are much harder to trace or to remedy. The most notable one, if you're a fan of Breaking Bad, is what the fuck is it called? Ricin.
I think I've heard of that one.
Ricin is nasty stuff. It's almost like chemical radiation poisoning. The way that ricin works is it interferes with the compounds that allow cells to split and grow. And by doing this, it essentially allows your body to die of old age through necrotization. The first symptoms are displeasure, a feeling of like a fever, just the general body ache and exhaustion, and then as it goes on, it gets worse and worse. But there's not any way to treat it because it literally gets inside your cells and stops them from splitting and reproducing. And by doing this, like, there's a lot of toxins that if you have the right, not even antitoxin, but treatment, like when we were talking about tetrodotoxin the other day, like if you can get somebody on iron lung that keeps their heart beating and their lungs breathing artificially, they'll live through it because their body will eventually process the poison, right?
Yeah.
Even rabies, the whole reason people tend to die from rabies is not the neurodegenerative virus itself. The symptoms trigger the like madness, aggression, and inability to swallow or drink water. But it is that inability to swallow or drink water that causes them to die from dehydration. But if you give them intravenous fluids and you keep their lungs breathing and their heart pumping for long enough, their body will actually generate antibodies to fight rabies, and they will live through it.
So we do have a cure for rabies, though, I think.
Well, we do have vaccines. I'm talking about, like, what the treatment was like before that. There were people who would live through, and there was actually, like, one of the most deadly plants out there, aconite, also known as wolfsbane or monkshood. It looks like a white carrot. Even a small drop of this, if ingested, can go and cause death because it causes a full nervous system shutdown. If you dilute this and dilute this and dilute this again, it slows down the effects of rabies enough that if somebody can be hydrated, they can live through it.
That's just it. I mean, anything can be toxic in a high dose.
Yes, even water. Hyponatremia is an issue that has actually affected several athletes, where if they overhydrate while they're exercising, their body retains the moisture. And that's another one, in case of point, where if they overhydrate, every nerve cell in your body needs a balance of water to electrolytes in order to send nerve signals. If you overhydrate, at first you feel nauseous, then you get lightheaded, but if it goes way too far, your body can literally not produce the nerve signals for your heart to beat or your lungs to breathe, which would generally kill you. But if you put somebody in an iron lung to where it just keeps their body functioning long enough to dispel that moisture, they're fine. No big deal. There's a lot of different factors there. But I digress. The thing with ricin is you can't just process this out. It literally stops cell reproduction. So once it begins to affect the body, what do you do? Like, you can't heal. You can't maintain your cell count. You literally just begin to rot away like you have, extremely progressed old age. And in a high enough dose, like... No, literally, like, you rot apart. It's like time itself going and just eating away your flesh. There's no way to fight it unless you have some way of, like, flushing it out of the body, which at this point they don't. Almost everything has, even if it's not an antitoxin, a treatment. But ricin, no. It's you take that, you're done.
There was something that I think America has used before. I think it was called Agent X.
Are you thinking Agent Orange?
No, Agent X.
Agent
X, extremely concentrated radioactive material. And what this would do is, if they used it, this could stay dormant in the soil for up to 10 years. I believe American soldiers were affected by it as well as the enemy. Because wasn't Agent Orange like a chemical, almost like napalm stuff?
It was a defoliant. It was specifically designed to kill plants. To be fair, I haven't done enough research into Agent Orange. I don't know all.
Agent Orange killed hundreds of thousands of American soldiers, more so than the Viet Cong.
Yes, yes, and they originally shot it over the jungle to try and clear out the jungle to make it easier to fight, but it turned out to have severe side effects.
What is it? I think it was like a corrosive material. It literally burned away the flesh of the soldiers.
Well, that's the interesting thing. From what I heard, it didn't do that right away. This is all after effects that were discovered long after the war. It sounds similar to what you're describing, and I'm wondering... Again, I need to do my research into Agent Orange, but it almost sounds like what you're saying, because it's something that the effects were not discovered until long after its use, which... with a mild radioactive agent, you would have that same, consequence. You can have that with certain heavy metals, because certain heavy metals either interfere with the body or have very minor radioactive isotopes in them.
Okay, well, I put up the wiki on Agent Orange.
Okay.
It was a defoliant and it contained extremely toxic herbicides.
Okay.
It contained dioxin.
Interesting.
It have caused major health problems for many individuals who were exposed. 3 million people. Yeah. And the US dismissed it, how many people were affected by it, as unreliable.
I mean, the entire Vietnam War was built on a lie.
Yep.
The entire thing started because apparently an aircraft carrier was attacked off the coast of Vietnam, and that was a declaration of war, so, there you go. But it was later declassified, and it turns out now the entire thing was just a giant pile of bullshit.
Ooh.
God damn it.
That one I didn't know. I didn't know there was a lawsuit filed against the US.
In which regard?
For Agent Orange.
Oh, yeah!
Lawsuits were filed on behalf of both US and Vietnamese veterans. Shit. I didn't know the British also used it.
I didn't either. That's surprising.
Yeah, the British used it in Malaysia during the Malaysian emergency. Guerrilla war. 1948 till 1960. Oh, that sucks.
So wait a minute. So then the British had it first.
Yes.
Interesting.
The Malaysian emergency was a guerrilla war fought in the Federation of Malaya from 1948 till 1960. The conflict was between Commonwealth Armed Forces and pro-independence fighters of the Malayan National Liberation Army. And it turns out that they didn't just drop Agent Orange, they sprayed it from helicopters in the Vietnam War.
Yes. Yes. That one I did know.
It destroyed 3,100,000 hectares of the forest. Ooh. Yeah, that'd do it. Triclo. Oh, did I try and pronounce this?
Okay.
Ferronoxatic acid That's one of the compounds in Agent Orange, and the other is dichloronic xenophatic actic acid. So 2,4-D and 2,4,5-T. I mean, yeah, it's very contained deadly acid. Yeah, it would have done a shit ton of damage.
I mean, that sucks, but, like, if you have heavy metals in there, then that's a whole nother... Because, like, I don't think it was ever entirely answered, like, how it came about, but there was this assassination... Well, I want to say an assassination attempt, but no, it's a full-on assassination of this guy who got shot with an umbrella. Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so this dude had essentially a minor gun mounted in an umbrella, and, like, what I'm saying now is all, like, after the fact when they figured it out and put everything together. I don't even know when this occurred. But this umbrella had a minor charge mounted in it, and it shot the victim with a pellet, and the pellet had a minor radioactive isotope. It was something that was it emitted alpha radiation. Now the thing is, alpha radiation is not regular radiation as we know it. It is actually supercharged, essentially helium particles. Whatever get, huh?
What is it? There's also beta and gamma radiation.
Yes, there is, but those are just full-on waves. Alpha radiation is, in most terms, completely harmless. But at close range, it launches neutrons out of it, which become helium. So this very, very tiny pellet, like, they said slightly larger than the size of, like, a pinhead, was shot into this person, and this was radioactive. So what it did was essentially shoot out these particles that were like helium, which start off as almost like what we know as radiation, but then turn into a gas on the way out. Under any other circumstance, no big deal. But in this case, super destructive when you have this particle in the body. Because if you look at how many atoms are even like the size of a pinhead, just so much garbage gets put out, and this dude just rotted apart from the inside.
Yeah. It's interesting with assassination attempts as well. Like when you look at JFK.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe that the guy they busted actually shot him.
No, most people don't. Like, it's so weird to have, like, this guy, okay, you know, I shot him, and then, like, on his way to trial, he gets assassinated by somebody else. Like, that's the perfect setup to try and cover up wherever it started.
Wait, what's his name? Oslo was assassinated?
The original guy who was supposed to have shot him, was killed on his way to trial by somebody like Jack Ruby or something like that.
Yeah, it was like a Oslo or whatever his name was. He had military training or something.
Mm-hmm. No, the first one killed him, and then a second guy came along, killed him, and then, like, where do you go from there, right?
But that's just it. Like, a lot of ex-veteran snipers have gone out to that location as well, and they said there's just no way. With the speed that the car was moving and the location, there's just no way the bullet would have hit him.
Well, not just that. Like, why sit there and wait to be caught? Like, you're so far off.
A lot of people are saying there was a grassy knoll on the Redout, and that's where it was shot from.
A lot of people have said that. There have been other theories about a certain yard on somebody's house, and then there's another one saying that somebody actually caught a storm drain and managed to get into the sewer system and shoot from the storm drain.
Huh.
There's a lot, but the fact that the person who was the original captured suspect, they were concerned he was going to talk. I believe there was some sort of he was going to make a statement, a testimony, and then literally on his way to the courthouse, this one dude in the crowd comes out and just shoots him dead. And then what? If you want a way to cover tracks, that's the way to do it.
Sure.
I don't
stuff.
I don't like to get too far down conspiracy theories. I don't go that route unless there's significant evidence. But there's just so much that's weird there, and the fact that
Well, look at what is it? Michael Jackson. He died a few years ago, and his doctor was the one administering his medicine. You don't. If you've been doing that for years, you don't just suddenly mess up your patient's medication.
Yeah.
But 100%, doctor killed him.
That's weird. Either that or it was, suicide.
It's possible, but apparently the doctor was there with him as well, so who knows?
Well, that's what they say. I mean, it might not be, what do you call it? It might be assisted suicide,
It's possible. It's also weird as well, though, that they were saying that, Michael Jackson touched up all these kids, and then after he died, a few days later, oh no, that's all bullshit. So, something doesn't add up there.
That's all what?
That was all bullshit. Him being accused of touching up kids and whatnot, and then...
Oh, yeah.
It's all washed away.
I mean, there was a lot of stuff that went to trial, and... I mean, a lot of people get when they hear that there's an injustice, they want to make it right. And the thing is, if you have a situation where somebody gets murdered, and there are 10 pieces of evidence, and let's say 3 of the 10 point to a certain person, and the other 7 go nowhere. You're still going to have the public going after this person, even though the minority of the evidence points to them. That's still their one lead. So it's take them out, because at least then we know we're safe. And it's no, you don't. If you take them out and they're the wrong person, you're not safe, because this asshole is still out there to kill people. But they're so scared, they don't care. They want a result. And that's the thing, is when you had these accusations against Michael Jackson, it doesn't it doesn't matter that you had so much stuff proving the contrary. It was just an injustice has been done against a child. He's a pedophile. Put him away, lock him up, kill him. We don't care, as long as we don't need to deal with him. Why? There's so much that says it wasn't him, but you're going to just point in that direction because it's easier and it puts your mind at ease. And that's the thing, is a lot of people don't actually care about results. They just want to feel better. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. But there's a lot of unexplained stuff out there as well. Look at the case of Jack the Ripper.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the worst murders in the history of England.
Yeah.
Never solved. But there's new evidence come to light, though, that Jack the Ripper may have actually been a woman.
Well, that's interesting. Give me just one moment to hit the bathroom. I'll be right back. Is that okay? Okay, BRB. Okay, I'm back.
Yeah.
So as far as Jack the Ripper goes, there's a bunch of different things. There's looking over some of the evidence I saw, it actually suggests it may not have been one person. Because the MO doesn't necessarily match up for a single individual. You have certain things that are done that are very ham-handed, and then others that are very acute. As time goes on, you see the mutilation of the faces of the women change. I almost want to say evolve. If you look at the way that the cuts and marks are done on the face, it actually looks like a doll.
Huh.
Like, you get the slashes across the eyes and the rosy cheeks, and then, like, it sounds weird, but, like, looking at them, it looks like somebody who's making, like, a Harlequin doll. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the thing is, you always hear, like, you know, oh, it's crazy to think how much of this was done in complete darkness, but if it's two people, you have somebody, you know, you have somebody who's based on precision and somebody who's based on brute force. You have somebody who takes down the woman and subdues her, and then he holds the light while the other guy goes and does, you know, the autopsy, let's say.
Also, you have to have someone who had surgical knowledge.
Correct, and that's actually where my next thing was going. Are you familiar with H.H. Holmes?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so H.H. Holmes is often credited as being the first American serial killer. Like, if you combine, man, I don't know how to put this. Like, Sweeney Todd with Dracula and Frankenstein. That's essentially what this dude was. Like, awful, evil person, but I still need to give him credit for just, like, his knowledge and prowess. Like, holy shit. Okay, so this guy started off rough life medical student, and he was really, really interested in bodies. And he would start digging up corpses and selling the skeletons to universities because there's a lot of money there, right? And then he gets into medical school, and he starts learning about, well, everything. He takes a trip. No, wait a minute. I believe he does something like fake his own death or kill his wife, something like that, to get a bunch of insurance money. And he uses this to kind of like start up his industry. He takes a trip to London. And it just so happens that the time he was in London is when everything with Jack the Ripper is taking place. And it stops when he goes back to the US. Just in time for the World's Fair there. And he purchases a block of land in town to start up a hotel, which became called the Murder Castle. This was a time...
Shadowing anything at all.
Well, no. It's not like he advertised it, but that's what it ended up becoming. If you watch these weird, like, horror movies, like, dude had everything planned out. His dead wife used to have a glass factory, which he converted into a crematorium. The Murder Castle was on a street corner. Now, bear in mind, at this point in time, you didn't exactly have the checks and balances that you have now. So if somebody goes into a hotel and checks in, you can't exactly tell what happens if they disappear, right?
Yeah.
He had some rooms were filled with tubes to turn them into gas chambers. Some of them had trapdoors to drop bodies through the floor into vats of acid. Some of them will go to autopsy rooms. Literally, he would have people pay him to spend the night. He would kill them, do all sorts of horrible experiments, and then either use acid to eat the flesh off their bones, or he had an underground tunnel going from the hotel to the crematorium, where he would torch them and then again sell the skeletons to universities.
Huh.
Guy had an entire system down. He eventually ended up getting caught of all the stupid things because he's trying to run a fucking insurance scam with his buddy. Where they end up having, like, a body that falls out of a chimney or something like that. I'm sorry, my details on that part are a little bit sketchy. He ends up getting caught, but one of his last requests after he was convicted, but before he was executed, was he said, "I want to die by execution. I want my execution to be by hanging, and I want my body to be encased in concrete before I'm buried."
Okay.
Really weird, right?
Yeah, just a tad.
Well, have to keep in mind, at the time when this was done, something like exhuming a body for analysis was extremely rare. So if somebody is hung and then buried in concrete, makes it really difficult to look into them. So there's actually a certain chance that he may have even cheated the court system, found a way out, had a body double buried in his place, and he still just continued to be an asshole somewhere else.
Huh. It's possible.
H.H. Holmes. Look, the whole story is really weird, but really interesting. And as awful as this dude is, really...
We have a serial killer who's still in jail to this day, here in Australia. His name was Ivan Milat.
Milan?
Ivan Milat.
Okay.
He was a backpacker serial killer. He would find backpackers, usually young girls, he'd take them out into the bush, and then he'd shoot them with a double-barrel shotgun.
Is there a movie based on this guy?
There's a documentary.
Because this sounds very similar to, oh shit, I need to remember what it's called. Awful movie, but it sounds very similar. Wolf Creek.
No, it's possible. Wolf Creek was actually filmed in South Australia. So it might have been based on Ivan Milat.
It's, it took place in Australia. And it was, he would target backpacking groups, and he had some garage set up in the middle of nowhere, and, I don't want to talk about it because it's one of these movies that it isn't even a horror film, it's like a torture film. Do you know what I mean?
Yep.
If you want to look into it, then go for it, but,
I do believe you might be referring to Ivan Milat. Because yes, he did. He would take them out into the bush in the middle of nowhere and shoot them. That was it. They still haven't found most of the bodies. So yeah, if that's what Wolf Creek is based on, yes, you're absolutely correct. That is Ivan Milat.
It sounds like it might be based on what I saw. Like, this was a long while ago, and it was one of those things where it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna have this, group of backpackers, 2 girls, 2 guys, and they go out, and it's like, oh well, there's this area where we wanna go camping in, and they come across this one dude who goes like, oh yeah, you wanna go backpacking there, you really shouldn't, and they go, oh yeah, but what's the big deal? It's like, off limits. So they go there, and he ends up scooping them up and doing a bunch of really awful things. Like I said, the most of it isn't even a horror film. It's just like a torture movie. And this one guy... Well, no, actually, first there's one woman who gets away, and she manages to reach a highway, and she's asking people for help, and it's like, no, what the fuck are you talking about? They're confused. And he just, long-range rifle picks off the entire, family who she's talking to. And then he just walks up hey, beautiful, no, you shouldn't have been dealing with them, now it's the consequences. And it's like, oh, fuck, okay. And in the end, there's finally one dude who gets away. And he tries to, report the entire situation. But Of course, they go there. They don't find any evidence that the guy is there, but they find a bunch of dead bodies and so many details from him that they go and persecute him. It's one of those things where, to me, it was just a really awful, awful movie.
But in reality, though, a lot of the bodies were never found. The cops have questioned him many, many times. They still have no evidence on it. Like, they got him for most of it, but body-wise, like, the body count remains unknown. As far as I'm aware.
Well, that sucks, but, as far as criminals go, there's this concept of, like, persecution versus protection. Like, it doesn't matter how many people somebody's killed, like, you're never going to get them back, right? The more important thing is getting this person off the street so they can't do it again. And that's where I fall as far as this goes. Is like, okay, so you don't have, like, a full resolution. That sucks for anybody whose, like, families are involved. But at least he isn't doing it to anybody else.
Sure. He was sentenced to life, so he's not getting out.
Alright, that's cool then, yeah.
So in Australia, life can be anywhere from just simple 25 to 30 years. That's what we call a life sentence.
Oh, okay.
But given his age, and if he does get out, he'd be pretty old or dead.
Yeah. Well, I mean, over here in the U.S., it gets a little extreme sometimes. I've depending upon on what justice system it is, I've heard of, like, some people it isn't life. They actually have a number on it, so by the time everything is tallied up, they have, like, a 300-year sentence.
Yeah.
Or, depending upon, like, what state it is, they might have, like, a 3 times life sentence. In either case, you end up with a situation where the prison actually has a graveyard on land.
Yeah.
Because, well, they've served 1 life sentence. Guess there's another 2 to go, so we'll just keep the body here. And a little goofy, but whatever.
Or in some states, they execute you outright.
It's what?
They just use the death sentence in most states.
Some, yes. That's becoming less and less, because the thing is, like, don't get me wrong, there are certain people that, like, as far as I'm concerned, they're just a blight on the earth. They shouldn't be here anymore, and all they're doing is sucking up resources. But, why do you really want to risk, like, killing a person? And that's actually where it becomes expensive, is, like, they want to make absolutely fucking sure that if they're going to kill a person, it has to be somebody who warrants death. And it can end up being more expensive to, like, double-check everything to make sure that somebody deserves a death sentence as opposed to performing it.
Yeah. And there have even been cases where they've got the wrong guy and then gone to administer that death sentence.
Yes. Now, as to, like, don't get me wrong, in the past, when you had things like eyewitness testimony to go off of, it has been proven time and time again that eyewitness testimony is so unreliable, it's a fucking joke. But as we get further and further along with, like, video evidence and so much with things that are irrefutable, if they do all their checks and balances, like, there was one incident where this guy was convicted of murder because his fingerprints were on the scene, and he's going, no, like, I was in another state at the time, and they actually have records of this.
Hyven_NYC.
Oh, hey, Hyven, how's it going?
What you guys talking about sound like life.
We're talking about crime investigation and murder theories. Good morning, bright and cheery, right? No. So there are a finite number of possible combinations for fingerprints. So let's say you have something only like one fingerprint, like a thumbprint to go off of. That's a little bit limited. Still a lot, still very unique, but limited if it's only one digit.
I mean, in regards to like law enforcement in general, they are necessary, yeah, sure, but I don't know. I don't generally like the police force. I've had run-ins with them in the past, and when you're dressed a certain way and you are stopped literally right outside your home and carded just because of the way you look, isn't that technically discrimination?
Yeah. There's a friend of mine. He's a little bit older. He's white, and he basically came under the understanding that it doesn't have so much to do with necessarily race. This does, let's say, perceived income level. Same thing happened to him. He was carded, but he refused to show his ID because he had no reason to. Which, granted, he didn't. But he turned it into a whole big issue because he didn't want to give his ID to prove that he was in front of his own house. So they took him to the local jail for the night. Not that anything came of it, but it was just a whole bunch of bullshit that he could have avoided if it's just like, yes, here's my ID, here's my residence, fuck you.
Well, that's it. I don't know how it works in the US, but here in Australia, in most of the states, especially the state where I am, I think it is in some states of America as well. Police need a legal reason to not only demand ID, but also detain you.
They do. That is 100% accurate here. But sometimes you have people that are assholes. And where I am specifically, and this is just my own personal experience, the PD have always been really nice to me. The local sheriffs, on the other hand, have always been assholes. But there's exceptions to every rule, and things change. They shouldn't do it without a reason, and that's why, just to try and pressure the guy, because he was in the right. It wasn't racial profiling, but the dude's an auto mechanic. He does work on other people's vehicles at their home and out of his own home. So most of the time, he just wears giant jackets, jeans, and he's covered in grease. He looks like a homeless dude, right? And he went through, to be fair, okay, and this is me playing devil's advocate. There was, he lives on the other side of some train tracks. He went through he went through a hole in a chain link fence. And, he wasn't supposed to cross there. Now, if they want to try and get him for trespassing, fine. And they literally followed him past the train tracks around to where his house was. They stopped him right in front of his house. And this is one of these guys, he's not a bad guy. He's actually also an amazing mechanic. But he, fight the power! Rebel against authority! He's always got a conspiracy theory. He's like a borderline flat earthist. Which is dude, you're a great person, but get your head on straight. And the way he talks, and this is going to sound silly, I don't think he actually believes in flat Earth. Because he said it before, I'm not saying the Earth is flat. I'm just saying you can't prove it's round. Do you know what I mean? He doesn't actually believe it, but it's just well, you can't prove me wrong, so I'm going to keep arguing this point until you do.
Okay. But no,
I guess you could call him a contrarian.
Yeah. I was stopped literally outside of my house on the street because I had some punk rated stuff, which was Roth brand on.
Mm-hmm.
And a cop car rolls up, goes past, stops, reverses, and then the guy's I'm like, are you serious? Where you going? What ID? I'm like, are you serious? How is this not discrimination? You stopped me because of the way I look. That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, yeah, and that's exactly what I was getting at. Is like, it may not be race, but you fit a certain stereotype, so they're trying to grind you down. Bottom line.
Yeah. He goes, oh no, it's not discrimination. We're just making sure like you stopped me right outside my house. It's discrimination. All right, let's just call it what it is. But whatever, I mean, he let me go, so... Then I've had arsehole cops. I've been standing on the street, just they were doing whatever they were doing. And I've just been standing on the street. Public street, didn't know what they were doing. And I'm just, watching them do a job or whatever they're doing. The cops swing around in the car and come straight for me. Oh, what are you doing? What are you doing? I'm like, oh, I'm just... Whatever, you guys, oh, we're just doing our job. Like we're doing arsehole time. I'm like, why are you being so aggressive? I haven't done anything to you. So then they start demanding an ID. I'm like, no. National law, or at least most state laws, require me to not give you ID. I'm not required to do that unless you suspect me of committing a crime. Or you place me under arrest. That's how it works. He goes, oh, we can get you for loitering. I'm like, no, you can't. It's a public street. You don't own the street. You might like to think you do, but you don't. So yeah, I've had my issues with law enforcement. There was, I wasn't arrested. I was detained, and they took me in to get my fingerprints.
Really?
No, it was just some bullshit. It shouldn't have happened. I mean, it wasn't something I necessarily did myself. But, yeah. Now, obviously, you would be tensed up walking into an environment where everybody's got a gun, right?
Okay.
So, yeah, like, basically push back. I mean, everyone's got a gun. Most cops, at least my ones, are trigger happy. So yeah, they take me in for fingerprinting, and this sergeant's an arsehole. Like, he was an absolute arse. He goes, oh, relax your hand, I'm going to break your fingers. While we do the fingerprint. It's like, Jesus. Yeah, it's,
Well, remember the lessons from Gabriel Iglesias. If you could just make him laugh.
Yeah, sometimes.
I thankfully I have not had too many bad experiences. In fact, like my brother, half brother technically. Oh shit.
Yeah.
Has said that I have a magical way with law enforcement, like not even interacting with them directly, but just being around them. And I don't know what it is. Maybe it's like my polite demeanor. But for the most part, like I've only had really like 2-3 bad encounters. Rest of the time, it just kind of like goes by the wayside. But there was one, like I used to go rollerblading late at night.
Yeah.
And at some point I'm going down this one street in town, which technically is a one-way street, but I'm not on the street, I'm on the sidewalk. And I would not just go rollerblading, I had like earbuds in, and I had an MP3 player that I like strapped to my arm with an elastic band. So I could just like listen and skate and whatever. So I'm going down the street, and then like I start to see like flashing out of the corner of my eye, and I hear "woo" out over my headphones. And I'm like, what? And I turn around, and I see a cop car there. And I was like, okay. So I pull my headphones out, and this dude is getting out, and he's like, so it's pretty late. And I'm like, yeah. what's up? And he's like, you know, this is like a one-way street. And I'm like, but I'm not in the street. And he's like, yeah, but there's not supposed to be pedestrians on the sidewalk. I was like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know that. Like, you know. So as he's talking to me, he's shining his light in my eyes, like, to see if I'm, like, high or drunk or anything. And I'm not. He's like, so it's like, you know, 2, 3 in the morning. What you doing out here rollerblading? I'm like, well, I do pizza delivery, and I, you know, get off the clock around 1 a.m., and it's summertime, so it's fucking hot. And, you know, it's nice to go rollerblading in the middle of the night when it's cool and there's no cars. And he goes, like, he immediately drops the light on me. He goes, good point. And you can see, like, the gears turning in his head, and he goes, well, you know, and he can tell that, you know, I'm not on anything after checking my pupils. And he goes, well, you know, this is like a one-way street. You're not supposed to have any sort of, like, you know, vehicular activity besides pedestrians. I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't know. And he goes, well, you know, there's nobody else on the street right now, so I guess it's, like, not a big deal. But just try to keep it in mind. And it's like, okay, I don't go during the day, so, you know, no big deal. And he goes, okay, good talk. And that was it.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's nice when you get the good cops, but
Yeah. He wasn't even one of the good ones. He was just reasonable.
I mean, you can get the really nice cops, but you can also get cops that you can be nice to them and they're just complete arseholes to you.
Yes, and I've had those too.
Yeah.
And there's one time I took lunch break at this place I was working, and I'm driving across town. And I get pulled over as I'm going down this one street, and the cop goes, so you're going a bit fast there. I was like, what was I? And he goes, yeah, like, speed limit's, you know, 40 here, and you're going 50. And I go, really? I didn't see any signs. He goes, well, that's the speed. I go, okay. And he goes, so where are you going in such a hurry? I'm like, well, I just got done with lunch. I'm trying to get back to work. Oh, where do you work? Over by the glider port. Oh, really? So you work on gliders then? And I was like, no, I actually do websites for one of the companies there. And then he just kind of like does this and rolls his eyes and walks away. Like, he just got tired of the conversation. And it's like, okay, I don't know what I did that was so, you know, disgraceful, but fine. So then he gives me a ticket and basically says, like, you know, GTFO. Which I did, and then I went to go fight it because I actually went down that same road that I was on. I looked, and there are signs that state the speed limit, but only when you're going, like, east to west. But I was going west to east, and in that direction, there are none that say it's 40 miles per hour. So there was no way for me to know going in that direction that I was exceeding the speed limit because I was in a rural area. There were no houses. There was no nothing. It was just an open field. But, fucker didn't even show up to court, so that's an automatic win for me.
Probably too much trouble.
It was. Literally, like, dude was just an asshole trying to... Because that's one of the things that's kind of broken over here. Turns out when officer... At least the last I heard in California here, an officer, if they write a speeding ticket, a certain amount of that goes to their own paycheck.
That's how it works here as well.
And that's bullshit, though, because that incentivizes them to prosecute people whether they're guilty or not.
Yeah, but the way it works here, and I think it's America as well, cops have a certain monthly quota that they have to hit. If they don't, they get written up or something.
Yep, same. And exactly the same issue. It's like, you can't fight crime if there's not crime. Like, I understand that, you know, in some cases, yeah, like, you can have somebody who's being a lazy piece of shit, but at the same time, you can't just force people to write tickets because it's not going to happen.
Mm.
Um,
Although usually, if they get a call on the radio for a rapid response, they won't even write a ticket. They'll just say "fuck off" and then they're gone because they have to. That rapid response takes priority over you.
yes, yes. And there are other things like, you know, they could write a ticket, but sometimes, depending upon what it is, it literally isn't worth their time, depending upon
Yeah.
how their quote is.
Most cops with minor infractions in America, they just don't care.
It's becoming
yeah.
it's becoming less, but still, to me, the concept that people need to meet a quota is garbage. There's no reason to do that. There is there was I had this one vehicle for a while. I got it and then I lost my job. So I was driving. I'm going down the highway, and in California we have generally 3 different law enforcement. We have local police department, we have sheriffs, and then we have highway patrol.
Yeah, highway patrol. That's the one that Gabrielle Iglesias has been stopped by.
Yeah. So I'm going down the highway and I get pulled over, and this older gentleman with a very nice mustache comes out and he's like, "So, you know, I notice your tags are really out of date." And I was like, "Man, I'm sorry. You know, I just got this car, you know, a little while ago, and my registration expired. I haven't had the money to pay for it because I lost my job." And he looks everything up, and he comes back and he says, "So here's the deal. I wrote you a ticket for $110, and there's a fix-it ticket just to get it, registered. But instead of the regular 1 month that you would normally get, I'm gonna give you 6 months. So you have that long to get it fixed, and you keep this ticket in your glove compartment. So if anybody else pulls you over for not having your vehicle registered, you show them this ticket and say that I've already been ticketed for it, and they can't prosecute you further. They can't tow your car. They can't do shit. You already have your fine set up. Either you fix it or you pay it."
Yeah.
That was a cool fucking dude. Like, he understood where I was coming from, and he tried to, he's upholding the law, but he's also giving me a good chance.
Yeah. And he had a nice mustache, so that's about it.
And he had a nice mustache, yeah. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get another job, and the car got repossessed before I had a chance to pay it off. But, so it goes. Yeah, unfortunately. There's another one. I went back to another vehicle. I got the stupid thing fixed up, and I'm pulling into an auto zone, and as I'm pulling into the parking lot, boo! The red and blues come on. They're like, Jesus Christ. Okay, so I pull into a parking space, and I start to get out of the van, and the cop's like, "Don't move!" I'm sorry. I'm just a little bit tired. And he's like, "What do you mean?" I'm just trying to get this thing fixed up. He goes "Dude, this van is 3 years expired." I'm like, "I know! I just had the transmission repaired. I just need trans fluid and an oil change so I can register it." And he goes, "Oh." I'm like, "Yeah, that's why I pulled in this parking lot." And he goes, "Okay, have a good night." And that was it. Literally, that was it. The only time I've had problems here specifically is with sheriffs. The PD, the highway patrol, they've always been I don't know. I guess one of the things is it might sound dumb. I'm bad at lying. Literally, if I try to bullshit somebody, it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. But conversely, I think when I'm telling the truth, as long as they're not an asshole, they understand that.
Yeah.
And I've really never had a problem with that. I'll just be straight up honest. There was one time I went out. It was, let's see here, probably 2012. It was Halloween. I I just become single. I'm like, trying to meet people, have a good time. I ended up getting a girl's phone number. Not that anything came of it, but all the same, it was just like an ego boost. Like, I got a phone number, yeah. And I'm driving home, and like from town to where I lived at the time is like a half-hour drive through a rural area. So I'm just like tearing through the area, and then I see the lights, and cop pulls me over, and he was one of the PD for this local area, and he goes, "Sir, do you know how fast you're going?" And I stop. I just give this big sigh, and I go, "All right, I know it's a 55 zone. I'm gonna be honest, like, I'm really excited that, like, a girl gave me her number tonight, so I was doing, like, I think, like, 65, 68. And he was like, holy shit, you got it right. I'm like, I'm not gonna fuck with you, like, I was excited, so I was speeding. I'm also on, like, new meds for my depression. I don't know how that affects my alcohol. And he's like, okay, well, can I have you just, like, step out and walk a straight line? I'm like, yeah. And I walk the straight line. Goes, okay, well, you don't look too bad. So, you know what? Try to just, like, keep it in line. I'm like, I'm less than 5 minutes from my house. Perfect. Just don't speed. And, congratulations on tonight. Cool. And that was it. That was it. Unbeknownst to him, a couple minutes later, going over the hills to where I was living at the time, I went drifting around a couple of corners because I was still excited, but... I mean, technically I wasn't breaking the speed limit.
No, you were just dangerous driving.
I mean, depends on how you define it. I stayed in my lane. I just had the car sideways while I was going around that corner.
But all vehicles in the US are manual, aren't they?
A what?
Are all vehicles in the US manual?
No, very few are. I am kind of proud of myself. I've managed to both peel out and drift in a wide variety of vehicles. If you have an e-brake, it doesn't matter if it's automatic or not. An e-brake with like a lever handle in the middle makes it really easy. And then I've actually managed to slightly drift a van that has one of the like foot pedal e-brakes. I had to really be on top of that, and I shouldn't have done that. I'm lucky I didn't like roll the fucking thing. But
well, I mean, I know for a fact there's no way you'd be able to drift a Koenigsegg 1 or an Agera.
A what or a what?
A Koenigsegg 1 or a Koenigsegg Agera.
I don't think I even know what either of those are.
Hypercars, basically. They go so fast that they literally have wing gears for speed shifting. You can't use the manual gearbox. They have special wing gears.
A challenge. No. I think, I mean, like, when I learned how to drift, I had, like, a junk car that I was using to get around at the time. So, like, it was what I had, and that was it, but it still wasn't, like, I think I got the thing for, I don't know, $500. It leaked oil like a sieve. It didn't have a computer. It ran on, when I say, it wasn't even vacuum tubes, it was vacuum hoses.
Okay.
Which I will save for another discussion if there are questions. But it wasn't a computer. It was literally, well, not an electronic computer. It was almost like a literal mechanical computer, like a logic machine. Like, it was stupid. But the thing ran as long as I, like, put another quart of oil in it every week. It was nasty, it was gross, but it got the job done, and I got it for, like, $500. And it had a lot of horsepower and was very aerodynamic, so going through these hills, I learned how to drift it. Cool. And I was able to scale that up to other vehicles. And after this broke down and I started fixing up another, and this daisy chain of like getting my vehicles up and running, I was borrowing a car, which was a Pontiac G6, I believe. And it's a sedan that had, I mean, like 4 doors, a trunk, but it had an e-brake. And again, it's one of these things where it's like, I really shouldn't have done it. But there was this girl I was chatting up at the bar, and she had some friend who was really intoxicated, and the fucker's an idiot, so he starts walking down the street like, yo, fuck it, I'm gonna just go home. Turns out he wasn't going home, he was just going down to the gas station down the street to get a pack of cigarettes. But that was the last thing he said, and then he disappears. So it's like, oh no, where's my friend? So it's like, you know what, it's cool, I'll go check on him. I jump in the car, I go peeling down the street, and he's walking down the left side. I'm on the right side. I come up and I hit the e-brake and swing up around right next to him. And then, like, you can see him just standing there, like, and the window goes down. I go, hey, dude, you know, she's looking for you back up at the bar. You need a ride? It's like, nope. I'm good. I'll be right back. Okay. I think that's, as far as, like, drifting goes, my top achievement.
That was good. Now, can you pull off Paul Walker's stare and drive?
The what?
The stare and drive?
Stare and drive?
Stare and drive, yeah.
I don't know what that is.
Basically, you look out your window and you just drive. You're not looking at the road, you're just driving in a straight line. And whatever happens, happens. A challenge.
On a good long straightaway, sure. Sure.
And you try doing that on the highway, see what happens.
Depends on how curvy the highway is.
That's true. Man, you were chugging that water.
Yeah. No, I need to compensate for
all the alcohol.
Yeah, I've gone through. Let me see here. I had like this much whiskey left, and then this one was full. And I told you my ratio, which I have been meeting with Dr. Pepper, which now this started off full. We're down to that. So.
Damn. Also, Dr. Pepper is pretty rare here in Australia.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you get 7-Up?
Yes, we have 7-Up.
I believe they're the same company, so that's a little weird. Well,
Hell, we've even got Mountain Dew Doritos.
Well, Mountain Dew is Mountain Dew is a subsidiary of Pepsi, so I'm not surprised there.
But it's a Dorito flavor. I
mean, like, that's weird. Kudos to you, but it's Pepsi. And anything that's owned by Pepsi or Coke is just like a huge, conglomerate. But Dr. Pepper and 7-Up are significantly smaller. Do you get RC Cola or Big Red?
No.
RC Cola is obviously a cola. They're kind of an in-between between Coke and Pepsi. They aren't quite as sweet as Pepsi, and they have a rich flavor, but not quite as deep as Coke. I actually like them a lot. They're considered...
I'm not on Coke after I saw the amount of sugar that comes out if you boil Coke down.
Oh, well, I mean, the same goes for Pepsi. Like, all sodas are just fucking garbage as far as sugar goes.
True.
But for me, it's like, I mean, I'm not one of these people who's a diehard between, say, Coke or Pepsi. They both have an individual flavor. I generally do prefer Coke more, but I won't turn my nose up at Pepsi. Like, it's still good in its own way. But as far as different brands go, I actually like my preference is RC. It kind of hits the best of both worlds, at least as far as like big brands go. There's some others that are like really obscure, expensive, off the wall, and oh my god, they're mind blowing, but they're so pricey, it's not worth it.
Speaking of Pepsi as well, I don't know if this is still a thing, but there was this woman who would drink, like, she'd drink a shit ton of Pepsi Max per day. She ended up with multiple sclerosis.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun.
Yeah, from drinking Pepsi Max.
I know there's a lot of people who say that like drinking soda erodes your bones, but that's kind of bullshit. Because the acid that comes from soda is actually from CO2. It'll erode your teeth, but you know, when people drink soda and it goes straight in the body, it decompresses and they burp or fart, and that's where the acid goes. You know. Now, as far as multiple sclerosis goes, I don't know what artificial sweeteners are in Pepsi Max. So that would be interesting to look into. I do know. Say what?
I think she drank like 5 to 10 bottles of this stuff a day.
Jesus. I do know that certain artificial sweeteners, specifically aspartame, I mean, it varies from one to the next, but aspartame itself has a chemical structure that is actually very similar to methamphetamine. This is why some people will get an energy rush from drinking diet sodas, and also why it will have an addictive quality. Additionally, as far as like large amounts of consumption go, there was an incident with a woman who was drinking massive amounts of black tea. As you know, a lot of people, oh, black tea is good for you, right? Turns out she was going through like over 2 gallons a day of black tea. She would also make it super, super strong. And it's unclear whether it's something that is like leached from the soil from black tea, or if it was like from just compounds that are supplements to tap water. But she started to grow fluoride crystals on her bones.
Ooh.
So you would actually get crystals coming out of the shoulders and off the rib cage, and she started to suffer this pain. Like, why am I sore? She goes to the doctor and gets X-rays, and it's like, you have crystalline skeleton. Cool. All right, what do I do about this? And it's like, nothing. Just drink less tea. That was it. Like, you know, just lay off the massive amount of like boiled down water you intake, and you know what'll happen is your body will hydrate. And it'll break it down. You'll pee it out. Go figure. So when you have all these people that are like, you know, oh my god, fluoride is toxic. It's like, no, literally, you can grow crystals on your bones before it kills you.
That's weird though with black tea, because black tea is said to be really good for helping prevent cancer, relaxation, and a whole bunch of other benefits. Oh yeah,
it's good. It's good. I don't know if it like leaches minerals out of the soil. I have a feeling it has much more to do with the fact that, like, she's boiling, 2 gallons a day of this super, super strong black tea. And if she's using tap water, like most of the time, at least in the U.S., they fluoridate it, which helps, strengthen your teeth and kill certain germs, which is good.
Fluoridate ours here, too, now. They never used to.
I mean, a lot of people lose their shit over it, but it's not really that bad. All things considered, it's actually healthy for you, and it makes things more sanitary.
It really depends on the dose, because fluoride in a high dose is a neurotoxin.
Again, the dose makes the poison, right?
Yes.
And likewise, she was taking so much water and boiling so much strong tea. Oh, yeah. She's drinking 2 gallons a day, which is already like a crazy high amount, right? But how much is she starting with when she boils this down to 2 gallons? Like, is it 4? Because then she's doubling her concentration. And if she's going through that every single day, then you start increasing the level of fluoride you take in. And yeah, I mean, it makes sense. like, the whole way that fluoride works is it bonds to calcium. Okay, cool. So it's going to start to make your bones stronger. Sounds nice. But then you have so much that your body goes, oh, what the fuck to do with it? So it just keeps stacking it on top of itself, and then you get fluoride crystals. It can be toxic under the right circumstances, but it takes so much to cross that fucking line. Like...
I love the delay on Twitch because it looks like, oh, it's so weird. Oh, the delay on Twitch after you've already said something and it's watching your body spaz about.
Yeah. Sorry. No, it's yeah. If I could make my stream more real time, I would, because it's not like I'm particularly concerned about censoring things right now. But
yeah, the thing is, though, with the fluoride being a neurotoxin, I believe it's actually used in concentration camps during World War II. And what, at least what Hitler did with it, was he would use fluoride to basically dumb down the workers, or like slave labor and stuff like that, so they wouldn't die. He'd have fluoride in drinking water. In a high enough dose. So affect their brain function or something like that.
I'll need to look into that. Because that is interesting. I haven't heard anything about that.
No, I mean...
I know right now, actually, the bigger concern is plastic.
Yeah, like BPA.
No, not even BPA. Pardon me. A lot of plastic, it turns out, it doesn't so much decompose as it does break apart. And it falls into, well, one, it releases like methane into the upper atmosphere. But then it turns into microparticles, which they've determined can actually get eaten by like shrimp and krill, which then are in turn eaten by fish. And then those microparticles can turn up in the brains of like tuna, which leads to lower cognitive function and weight gain. General lethargy. Which is like, okay, fine, but the thing is, like, those microparticles are actually not as small as they get. They can get even smaller, so now you're actually getting decaying plastic that are releasing plastic dust clouds into the atmosphere, which people can breathe, which finds its way into the body and can even cross the blood-brain barrier?
With the... sorry. Choking. Then something caught in my throat there. That's horrible. With things for lungs as well, they I believe it was one of our news companies here. They did a comparison between a smoker's lungs and pollution. So 60 years of pollution compared to a smoker's lung. The pollution looked far worse. And yay, I live near a main road, so you can only imagine what my lungs are.
Yeah. Air pollution, it's astounding how much, like... Now, don't get me wrong, you have different levels of, like, smokers, right? Yeah. But the long-term effects of pollution can cause so much more damage, because at least with cigarettes, you know what carcinogens you're taking in. But with everything else, like, it's so awful. It is mind-blowing to know how bad it is.
If you get non-commercial tobacco, usually it hasn't been treated with harsh chemicals. Whereas, I mean, you look at cigarettes, there's like bleach, toilet cleaner, and all kinds of crap.
Yeah. I actually started with hookah because I liked the flavors and the like mellow buzz, and I would like to do that more. But the thing is, it takes a lot of setup, and there's also a fire hazard, and we have a dog and a cat, so I'm always concerned like one of them's gonna knock it over, we're gonna burn the fucking house down. So that's why most of the time I take a smoke break with a cigarette, and I call cigarettes bottle rockets, because when I'm drinking and I smoke a cigarette, it just takes my buzz woo for a little while and then it drops off. But I can only have one about once every hour, otherwise it doesn't work. That said, there are different levels of cigarettes, and a lot of the like major commercial cigarettes I have, they don't do anything to me. I need like the garbage cigarettes, which are grade whatever the fuck it is that somebody said, like, you know, oh, those are like, you know, the leftover clippings from the big brand names. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. You know, they're cheap and they give me that rush that I want. Cool. Well, turns out after the fact, they're also the ones that aren't treated with a bunch of garbage. And when I do have to buy one of the ones that's a big brand name, it makes me feel like shit.
Yeah, like,
whereas
what is it? Marlboro, or whatever it's called. Or Winston Blue, or whatever it's called.
Marlboro, Camel, Pall Mall, doesn't matter what it is. All the big brand names. No, they don't give me that rush, but they also make me feel like garbage. I hate them. I'll take them if I have to, if I don't have any other choices. But the ones that are the off-brands, the cheap ones, that give me that like fast rush, they also don't leave me feeling like shit. And I think that's because they don't do all that other garbage treatment to them. I don't know. Maybe it's just psychosomatic. Maybe it's just I can't say. All I know is that, you know, I feel a lot better.
Have you looked into vaping at all?
Yeah, and that's one of the things that sucks. Turns out it isn't the nicotine that gives me a rush. It's all the other garbage that's in there. I've tried vaping. I've tried a concentration of vape juice that's like 3 times stronger than regular cigarettes as far as nicotine goes.
Yeah.
And I like puff, and I go, oh, I feel it. And like 10 seconds later, it's gone. Like, it doesn't work on me. Absolutely nothing.
Yeah, that's weird because I've done I should probably look into vaping again. I mean, I don't smoke. I haven't smoked in years, probably since I was 18.
But it depends. Like, when I would take trips down to like LA, I would get this big energy rush, and it's because of all the pollution in the air. Like, I would suck that in. That would like get me amped. It isn't the nicotine. It's all the other garbage in the burning tobacco that you know, my body takes in. Anyway, sorry. I don't want to cut this off, but I do need to get to sleep, and I really need the bathroom. You know, gone through way too much water, and I have stuff I have to do tomorrow. But you know, fun talk. Again, you know, glad I didn't cross that TMI line. You know, sometimes I'm a little too open. Sorry, but you know, should be around.
I've literally been to BDSM parties and events, so I don't think you can scare me off.
We shall try. No, you know, conversations for another night. You know, like I said, it is something that like I want to bring into my channel more because I think it deserves more representation. But I also want to be cautious about it because, well, Twitch.
Well, I mean, you're also not Alinity. I mean, Alinity can show her boobs on stream and be completely fine because she's a massive partner. And Twitch won't ban her because, you know, money.
Yeah, she's earning too much.
Yep.
Whatever. You know, hurdles for another day. But yeah. Take care.
Cool day.
You know, talk to you soon. I should be around tomorrow, whether it's going to be during the day here or in the evening. Not quite sure, but soon more Borderlands 3 with Havoc. And even if he's not here, I'll be playing something. So anyway, I really need to peace out. But